Hi, Mitch. Thank you so much for doing this for us today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, let's start with the basics. What is parkour?
So basically, parkour is all about picking a line in any sort of physical environment, typically a human-made environment, where you are starting at point A and you're going to point B, but you're doing it in a straight line. So whatever stands in your way, whether it be a fence, a curb, some part of the environment that's in your way, you use some sort of technique to traverse things, climb things, run through things, roll, do a variety of vaults. If there are bars in your way, you can also manipulate those as well. So it's really and it's also all about moving in a very efficient way. So it's ideal that you're really trying to use your body in a way that you're not using a ton of energy. So so you're moving efficiently, you're moving in a straight line, you're overcoming obstacles.
Yeah, no, you reminded me of ninjas. Like as you were explaining that, that's a very ninja-like movement, very efficiently, very quietly. I'm also reminded of my childhood in India, where when we went to our village, my mom's village, we used to jump from rooftop to rooftop. It was, of course, we didn't know it was parkour at that time. I learned of that when I grew up, when I moved to Canada, and I saw that. I saw other people doing that. And then, of course, internet opened up, and then you started seeing videos. And then one of the actors in Bollywood, his name is Akshay Kumar, he practices parkour as well. So that started coming up in news. And I remember thinking about, this was years ago, and I remember thinking about it, that I've been doing this all my life. I've been doing this all the time when I was a child. So it was very natural for us to jump rooftops, especially when you're flying kites in India and you have to go grab the kite that fell on a roof 7 roofs down, and you have to get there. So you go down the stairs, up the stairs, depending on if someone opens the door or not, and then you jump onto the house roof that you need to get to.
Yeah.
So it was very, so we grew up like that. You would have loved it there.
Yeah, I remember growing up as a kid and always thinking I loved ninjas. I love Japanese culture, and always wanting to be able to do those sort of things. And remembering that, the day that it sort of became a thing over here in Canada. It originated in France, actually, parkour. But when it kind of came to Canada, and I'm like, wow, this is what I was doing as a kid as well. And I wish I just knew about this earlier, so I could have really sort of delved into it with more depth and focused on all these cool techniques that I've learned over the past several years. But I see what you're saying. Yeah. And it's a part of our childhood, right? Climbing trees, jumping on high places, and doing a lot of things that are probably our parents thought were really dangerous, right? But we enjoyed.
But that was cool because we saw in movies, in Bollywood movies or Hollywood movies, the heroes in the movies were attempting all these wild action stunts that we wanted to copy. And then when we did, we were invincible. We were in that moment. We were that hero in that moment.
What I've really found is that there's really no limitations to what the body can do. And I'm by no means I'm not a professional athlete. I'm quite busy in my life, but I have been doing this for a while, and I really enjoy it. And it's really amazing how when you really push yourself in a certain sport, you can do those amazing things. The things that professionals do, if you dedicate yourself for long enough, you can do those things too. So it's really a good sport to give you that opportunity to just really hone your skills and maximize your progress. And it feels so empowering to be able to do all those cool things like you say, a hero would do, or a movie actor and so forth. Yeah.
So when did you start parkour?
I started about 7 years ago.
So not too long ago.
Not too long ago. It's just, I guess I would have been a little bit long. I guess I've been training avidly for about 7 years. I did have a few mishaps here and there. Obviously, whenever you really push yourself in any sort of sport or area of, physical education, it happens, right? So I've had a few mishaps along the way, which obviously sort of like put a stop to my training for a couple months. And there was one occasion where it was like half a year. But yeah, I think all in all of avid training, about 7 years.
And what
Yeah.
sparked the interest? How did you start?
Well, so yeah, like that's, I guess when I was a kid, even growing up, even until today, I used to dream of being like Spider-Man and flying between buildings and, like doing lots of triple backflips and all these things. And just feeling like the freedom that brought was just amazing, right? And then when this became a real sport, I'm like, wow, this is like something I can actually learn now. I grew up loving ninjas. I love the idea of just being free and being able to like scale a wall, run away from a bad guy if you have to, like whatever it is. Like, I mean, the more
Imaginary bad guys, we always did that.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's, I mean, the ability to navigate any given environment using the full mind and body is like a very empowering thing. Yeah.
You said it originated in France. Who started it and why did he start it?
So David Bell, I don't know a ton about David Bell, but I know the nuts and bolts. So he has a history of or a history in French combat because he was in the French military, and then he was also a gymnast, and he took part in various other types of training. So he was always interested in learning how to like fully navigate his environments, and I think it sort of spurred from that military background. And then, he thought like, well, I can do a lot of cool stuff with this. And he actually got into a lot of different stunt work because he was sort of, he became an actor eventually, but before that he was doing, stunt work for movies and so forth. And he was able to do that because he could utilize his body to the maximum potential and do all these fancy tricks that the average person couldn't do. So then I think he basically thought like this could be a sport. So he sort of coined it as parkour, and it essentially means like navigating obstacles in a human-made environment. That's sort of what parkour means to my understanding. And more nowadays, people are bringing in the natural environment into it as well. I love to, even when I go to Kananaskis country and hiking and stuff, I'll see where I can sort of throw in a parkour move here and there. Yeah.
And it also keeps a child in you alive.
Yeah, it certainly does. I do parkour with my son actually. And I mean, there's no limit to his energy, right? He just keeps going, and he also has no fear, which is kind of scary at times. But yeah, no, it's true. It does. It keeps me feeling like very youthful. And as long as I maintain my body and, think about my joint health and my muscular health and all those other, elements of health that are necessary to do a sport like this, I just feel like I could be young forever if I could keep doing this. So.
Well, as a child, we've done this, and I know my daughter does it. I'm sure your son does it too. That fearlessness that you just spoke about. We always test boundaries as children, whether it's with parents, whether it's with our teachers. We are always testing boundaries. And to me, parkour represents that. It represents breaking those boundaries that are set for us, by whether it's by urban environment or in a natural environment. So the capacity of human body to be able to go past those obstacles and get to the destination where you want to. It's an amazing, I think it's not just a physical accomplishment, it's also a mental accomplishment too. Absolutely. You're squashing your fears. You're squashing because you're always feeling limited by your brain that your body can't or can do this, right? Your brain guides that. But when you're able to accomplish this, I think it must be an incredible high.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a very deep and complicated aspect of the sport that you're talking about. But I can sort of sum it up with an example. 2 years ago, I really focused for a year on bar work and parkour. And some of the videos that I've uploaded, you can probably see some of that work, but just being able to jump from a bar that's maybe 8 feet from another bar, and it's like, 10 feet off the ground. And being able to navigate bars and to land on a very, very small cylindrical surface. But it sounds super freaky, but it's like when you scaffold it and you train from the ground up, right? So you practice that distance, obviously, that bar distance on the ground, you slowly build up. And once you're comfortable and you've practiced that motion 1,000 times, it doesn't matter how high the bars are. You can do it, right? It's like, so again, it's like, yeah, you're right. Like, so breaking those barriers is a very, very substantial confidence booster, and it is a real achievement. So yeah, like when I really got familiar with bars, whether it be swinging on bars or jumping from bar to bar, like, and sort of having that ability to navigate them, it was very empowering. Yeah. So, I mean, like, obviously I'll have another goal in the upcoming year, and it's exciting to sort of break those barriers and reach those goals. Yeah.
Is there any international parkour competition? Is it an Olympic sport?
It is not an Olympic sport, but I'm sure it will be soon. And there has been talk about that. Red Bull has a huge competition, a yearly competition for parkour athletes. And absolutely, like, I guarantee, like, every city that has a parkour gym. So typically if there's a parkour gym in a given city, it draws a lot of people, like, a lot of new parkour athletes. And then there's always coaches there. So they put together competitions for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You said your son also does parkour, and he must be young, I'm guessing.
He's 8. Yeah. 8 years.
He's 8. So what is the age that a child can start the sport?
I think, like, the younger the better. I think that you just obviously, like, and I know we're talking about, like, this sort of really, how do I say, like, the really sort of high, like, engaging aspects and the really fun parts of parkour. And it is all fun, but it's all about, like, sort of building up and knowing your limits and, like, not overstepping those limits, because that's when it can become dangerous. So basically, like, I think as early as 2 or 3, like, that you can have your child doing rolls on the carpet and doing little jumps. Like, there's a whole bunch of techniques that they can start working on at a very young age. And that's what we did with Marshall, my son, is we just started him young, like, and I had him in the basement or outside on the lawn, or when we were living in Taiwan, we went to the park together, and just starting young and getting that, like, sort of getting that comfort level built up. But then you see them, like, so they build up these little techniques, and the sort of parkour literacy, so to speak, is built up. And then when they're like 5 or 6 and they're getting more body awareness, you can see them use that foundation and really, really take off. And now, as for him as an 8-year-old, he's like, with that foundation, he's confident and really just picks things up quickly. So he's doing a lot of very technical things, even at a young age. But yeah, I think you can start very, very young. Yeah. It's all about safety though, right? It's all about knowing your limits. And the more you train and the more of those barriers that you talked about that you break, then yeah, you can start doing really, really amazing and big tricks and big things, but you got to build up to it. So yeah, I think a child can start as early as 2 or 3.
Just like any other sport, just like gymnastics or swimming or soccer. Yeah.
And I like, I know there's a lot of parkour athletes that won't agree with what I'm about to say, but to me, it's very similar to gymnastics. I strongly believe that. It's different because you're working with hard surfaces. There are a lot of differences, absolutely, but generally speaking, it's like full body, and a lot of the same sort of rules apply. So yeah, so like a gymnast can easily make the transition to be a parkour athlete. The opposite might not always be true, because like a lot of, but definitely it's similar. Yeah,
my daughter has been in gymnastics ever since she was 2.5 years old, and I see her in the park doing tricks on the monkey bars. And then, of course, when I saw your parkour videos, that was the first thought that came to my mind, that she can easily transition into that. And I would like for her to, because I think she will outgrow gymnastics pretty soon. So I
Yeah.
do want her to go into a sport that I know she will be good at, because she enjoys monkey bars and she enjoys jumping and leaping around. So for someone like her, where would she go in Calgary?
So there's a place that I go to. I've been going with my son for years. It's called Breathe Parkour. And they have 2 locations. I actually, one of the locations was shut down recently because of the wrath of COVID-19. And, you can only imagine it's ravaged plenty of businesses. So, but there's still a location open, and it will be open again. But right now, again, because of the restrictions, we can't go. But anyways, that gym has been great to me. Definitely, and most of the people who do go are kids. There are some adults, and I have like a little fathers sort of group that I train with. But then there's also a lot of like younger guys too, and yeah, men and women in their 20s and early 30s. And it's an amazing place. Like, they have so much stuff to do there. They have like fixed structures that they've built with bars and a bunch of other things, but they also have like movable pieces. So you can really like craft your own sort of like environments. And then you can also use the built-in environments, and there's coaches there, and they're super helpful. Like, I've learned so much from all those guys. Like, and I don't know,
And it's a controlled environment, as opposed to going outside and trying the same tricks without any supervision.
No, it's such a good way to scaffold your techniques and learning, because it is very daunting to just go outside and start jumping on concrete. Like, I mean, not only does concrete not only is it super unforgiving, but it's like landing on concrete from a height I mean, you feel that the next day in your lower back, your joints, your muscles, all that stuff. So being in a facility where they have like some padded areas, but also wooded, like harder surfaces, you can just sort of really like take those baby steps, right? You say, like, I've been working on this soft mattress gymnastics floor kind of stuff. You know what I'm talking about. For a little while, you get the confidence, then you move over to sort of like the wood surfaces and maybe some bar work. And then maybe after you're comfortable enough, you can take it outside onto the concrete. Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of women doing parkour yet. There are women, there are some parkour. I love watching parkour videos on YouTube. I think I mentioned that already. I love it, because I think that's my secret dream that I've nurtured ever since I was a kid. I love jumping from rooftops to rooftops. And so I think I'm going to push that on my daughter now. But I don't see a lot of women doing it. Do you see women coming into the sport now? Is that changing?
Yeah. If you like, I mean, especially at that gym, there are a lot of like for kids. I always like to quantify things with percentages and stuff. I'm gonna like say that probably about 15 to 20% of the students there are girls, like younger girls and teenagers, and then there are some adults that go there as well. That are female. And then like we have some sort of groups that we train with in and around the city. We go to parks, we go downtown, we go to SAIT University. There's so many cool places to train around the city. And there are definitely some women that join us for that too. So yeah, there's definitely a female representation, that's for sure. Yeah.
And it needs to grow. So we're going to make sure that it grows at least by one.
Yeah. And a lot of it, like you say, is like we talk about gymnastics. A lot of females who join parkour come from a gymnastics background.
Yeah, it's kind of disproportionate in gymnastics too. You don't see a lot of boys at that, even in the age group that my daughter is in, 8 to 9 age group. You don't see a lot of boys, perhaps 1 or 2 in her class. It's mostly just girls. And then you go into parkour, you probably see the reverse of it. So perhaps the gymnastics, when she's done with it after, because she's not going to get into competitive gymnastics. I don't think that's the route she wants to take, but that would be a good transition for her.
I think it would be great. I mean, it's just like she can literally go outside at any point and train anywhere, right? So yeah, I mean, it can be a more casual thing as well. And that's what I love about parkour too. It's like you just go at your own pace. Yeah.
And what do you do in winter in Calgary? Can you practice outdoors in winter?
So yeah, like I can give you a bit of a background about that. So I'm also like an avid like not a weightlifter. Like I have a history in powerlifting. I was a competitive powerlifter for years, and but I'm not into that now. But what I do is in winter, and this for strength training, I will typically carry around and do different exercises with like large rocks in my yard. So that's one way. And another thing I want to mention is that one of the most important parts of parkour training is actually doing other kinds of training. So like you're doing strength building to protect your joints and your muscles and to build power. You're also doing a lot of stuff for flexibility and movement. So, you know, be it yoga, anything that like really sort of like stretches things out and maintains your body is really important. So in winter, I go back to a lot of that stuff. Like, and I'll watch YouTube like fitness videos, do things like calisthenics, and just really think about how I can prepare my body well for the next time it gets warm outside. So again, like carrying heavy rocks around the yard and doing like squats and stuff like that. And then just, yeah, like there's a lot of things you can do in the home with balance. I can do a lot of handstands at home. Yeah, just the sky's the limit. It's really amazing how you can prepare your body in winter so that you're just that much more powerful and your body's sort of more ready for your parkour training when spring comes. Yeah.
Imagine you living in Taiwan through the year. You'd be doing parkour all year round.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
I can't imagine the core strength though. After training for so many years, I can't imagine like all the parkour athletes, the core strength, that must be huge.
Yeah, it really is. If you don't have that built in, the core strength, and if you haven't done the strength training, you're inevitably gonna get hurt. And I see that in a lot of young kids, especially in teenagers, and they come and they practice a lot of tricking, different kinds of flips, corkscrews, all those things, and they practice that so relentlessly without actually doing the strength training and proper like stretching, right? And so when they're young, it kind of works, but as they get a little bit older, even in their mid-teens, it's not sustainable because their bodies start going like, hey, wait a minute, you're landing so hard every time and your ankle strength isn't accommodating this, then something bad can happen, right? So I really recommend to like anyone who's getting a parkour, it's got to be like, you can do 70% parkour, but you got to focus that 30% on like strength building and flexibility and movement. Yeah.
I experienced that myself personally, not parkour, but getting back into sport without strength training for years in the middle. So there was a gap of a few years when I did not train. And then I went back into wanting to do the same sport again. My back got injured pretty quickly. And you don't recover from something like that once you injure yourself really badly. It's something you have to do. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, I mean, like with injuries, and I'm going to be 40 this year, and like I can't stress enough how like not just for like somebody my age, but you got to maintain, right? And like when you get back into something, like you say, you got to ease into it. You have to, and just constantly do. I mean, it's not just about strength training and working on mobility and flexibility. It's also about eating right, sleeping right. You know how it sounds like I'm not like a physician or anything, but you need all that. You need like that full sort of like nutritional cycle, and then things fall into place. I don't think I could be doing this now unless I like if I wasn't doing all those pieces of the puzzle, you know? Yeah. So important.
Yeah, no, I completely hear you.
Yeah.
I completely hear you, especially with age. You really need to be careful. And now I know how important core strength really is, especially when you're trying to go back to the sports that you did when you were 19 years old. No, you can't do 100 burpees from the first day on.
The other thing I would love to say, Roop, is, you know, all the time I hear it from adults, you're almost 40, you know, like, you know, you gotta slow down, and like, you got a family and stuff. And like, that is totally that perspective is so skewed, because No, there's nothing stopping you as long as you're willing to do the work to maintain that foundation you've built, right? So yeah, it's the sky's the limit. It really, really is. That being said, as a father and as a family man, I train smart. I know I've been hurt badly before, and that made it difficult to do my job and other things. So I try my best to train smart, but I never let someone's like words hold me back ever. Never. Like I'm going to be doing this for years, guaranteed. I'm not going to let people's words hold me back. Oh, slow down. What are you doing anyway? Like I would have been doing that when I was in my 20s, but it's like, I'm doing this now. I'm fine.
Wise words. I love that. I'm so happy that you could join us today and share all your wisdom and knowledge with us. And I hope somebody, maybe one person watching this will go search up parkour and search up parkour training places in the city that they live in and go enlist. Go be a part of this amazing movement that's occurring worldwide right now. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Do you want me to just share one more thing that's really important about parkour?
Sure.
Okay. So you don't need any equipment in parkour except a good pair of shoes. So these shoes, I love these shoes.
Are they ASIC?
They are. They're ASICs. And so I'll tell you why this is such a good shoe. And by the way, I'm not just talking about this company particularly, but I'll just tell you sort of like the quality of what kind of shoe you should have for parkour. So the sole is thin and it's rubbery. And so there's a lot of grip. So especially when you're doing like wall runs, like where you would run up a wall or you do a backflip off a wall, whatever it is, this grip is really, really going to help with that, especially sticking to bars. Like that's super important. It's flexible. It's not hard at all. You don't want a hard shoe. You don't want a hard sole. It should be like fairly soft, fairly thin sole. And you never want high tops because high tops are taking away the ability to sort of strengthen those calf muscles, or sorry, calf and ankle muscles. So you want a low cut shoe so you can actually, your training will strengthen your ankle better in the long run. And again, it should be light and right when you start. So these are like a pair of my old ones. I use these for years. These things last forever. It's crazy, but you can see right when that starts happening, that's when it's kind of time to get a new shoe, right? So you want to have a good grip in parkour. So the most expensive part of parkour is buying shoes. But since that's all you have to buy, you might as well get a good shoe. Because otherwise, like I've met people who trained in a shoe that wasn't suitable and it presented a lot of problems for them. So yeah. So get a great shoe if you're going to get into parkour.
Well, that's the only equipment you need. So I think you can invest in a good pair of shoe. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Roop.